Hey everyone, today we are going to do a ConferZoom training. We're going to go over how to register for an account or fix your account if you registered in the wrong spot. We'll talk about how to launch a Zoom meeting and how to lead a Zoom meeting, including everything you need to know about kicking out people who shouldn't be in your Zoom or disruptive students, or just making sure everyone can unmute themselves and participate in your lecture. So let's get started by registering. So the place you'll register for a Zoom account is www.conferzoom.org. Now we don't register at zoom.us. Okay, so if you've been told to do that, make sure that you don't keep spreading that around because it's really, really important to go to conferzoom.org. ConferZoom is called that because it is funded by the CCC Confer grant. So that's through the Chancellor's office. They pay for a premium Zoom account for all of us. So ConferZoom is where you sign up and you use your Hartnell email address. We'll look at that more in a second. And that's what gives us premium access to that product. Now you can also use Zoom in your Canvas classes, either by posting a link to the meeting or by using the built-in tool that's called an LTI tool that is built right into Canvas. So we'll talk about the benefits of both. But either way, you'll want to register first at conferzoom.org. So here's what you'll see when you get to conferzoom.org. This page might change a little bit based on any kind of notices they have up at the top, but generally speaking, this has been what the page has looked like for a little while. So you'll see up to the top right, there is sign up, and there's also guides and support, and then sign in. So we are going to start by signing up. But this is also where you'll go when you want to create a Zoom link. You'll do that by signing in. But first, we'll have to sign up. So click on sign up. You'll see a pretty straightforward account form here. You'll put in your name, first name, last name. Make sure to use your Hartnell email account. That's really, really critical. Otherwise, you will not get an account. Put in your organization as Hartnell College. Your classification should be accurate. Administrator, staff, faculty, pretty straightforward options here. Title, it can be instructor, it could be, administrative support, whatever you want to put in for your title. That's not super critical either. And then you can put in your phone number. I used my office phone number. If you don't have one, you can use your cell. I don't think that's a particularly big deal. Once you put in that information, you'll click on sign up, and you'll then receive an email. It will probably look something like this, but it'll come from someone at zoom.us. So just make sure that you accept the request from the ConferZoom team, and you should be in good shape. So this is the same process you're going to go through, even if you've signed up for a zoom.us account. And that's important because if you've ever tried to launch a Zoom meeting and you have a free account and it cuts you off after about 40 minutes, that means you have to go through the sign up process again. So just again, go to conferzoom.org, sign up using that sign up button, put in your Hartnell email, and make sure to confirm on the email that comes through. It may say something to the effect of, are you sure you want to confirm your account change to ConferZoom? You may lose features. The truth is you won't lose features, you'll actually gain them because you are gaining access to a premium product, a premium Zoom subscription. So if you've signed up at zoom.us, make sure that you do the sign up at conferzoom.org again. If you've never signed up, just sign up once at conferzoom.org and make sure that you confirm on the email that you receive. Previously, it was taking up to 72 hours for you to receive that account confirmation email. That's because they're manually approving some of these accounts. So just be patient if you haven't gotten it yet. Sign up as early as you can. So once you've signed up for your ConferZoom account, you'll be able to create meetings two ways. So this is how we launch our Zoom meetings. We can either go to conferzoom.org and we can create a meeting, and that will give you access to a link that you send your students. We'll talk more about different ways to do that in a few minutes. Or you can launch it within Canvas itself by using that Canvas ConferZoom tool that's called the LTI. And there's a lot of information about the LTI, but I personally prefer to go to ConferZoom.org, create my meeting, and then just use that link. You can use that link multiple times for multiple meetings, and there's all sorts of great security features. So even if you're using that link a lot, you can kind of keep out the people that you don't want to join by using some of the security features. So we'll talk more about that when we're actually in the Zoom meeting. I do not use the LTI because there were some stability issues with it last term, and that was the first term that we went fully virtual. So that was spring 2020, and there were some big issues where students weren't able to connect, and I think that it was just because of the incredible load on the system because we all went virtual very, very quickly. So I don't use the LTI. Feel free to use it. There's a little bit more information about using it on the website linked in the slide in front of you. That's hartnell.edu/pdc/online-training.html. So feel free to go there and learn a little bit more about it. Right now, we're just going to talk about how to go to ConferZoom.org and create your link. It's just going to be a little bit more straightforward for me personally. So let's go there and see what it looks like. So once you're at ConferZoom.org, you're going to click on Sign In, and you'll sign in using the credentials that you set up when you confirmed with the email, when you confirmed your account. So you'll see I have a lot of different meetings here. You don't need that many, but I use a lot of different meetings for different things. So when you log in, you'll be put directly into this meetings area. You have all these different options on the side. You can go to all sorts of settings and stuff. I encourage you to not go too deep into there just because it may take you down a path you don't want to go down. So just keep the basics when you're getting started. And then you won't have any meetings if you've never logged in before. So just click this blue button that says schedule a new meeting. You will see this screen and you can give your meeting a topic. Now I'm going to use this, in this particular use case, I would like to use this for my virtual office hours. So that's what I'm going to write. Okay, now you can use this in as many classes as you want. I might also, if I'm a staff member, I might also use this to do like a recurring, department meeting. So I might put the topic as department meeting. No need to enter in a description. You will probably tell whoever you're inviting to the meeting what it's about, right, in an email or whatever. So the next really, really important thing here is this when, duration, and time zone area. Now, if you wanted to make this on, the 17th of every month from 12 to 1 p.m., you could do that. You could make it an hour long, 2 hour, whatever you want it to be, right? But what I'm going to do is I like to have flexibility. I'm going to make it a recurring meeting because I want to be able to launch this meeting whenever I feel like it. Okay, so I'm going to make it a recurring meeting, and I'm going to set the recurrence to no fixed time because this is how I want my meeting to have that level of flexibility. So the way that I do this, where I communicate when the date and time of the meeting is going to be, is I will put this into a calendar invitation. Again, this is for like a department meeting. Put this into a calendar invite under where, for the meeting location. Just put your link there. We'll get to that link when we save this meeting. It'll show us what the link is. And then you've communicated your date and time, and then you're not limited by your meeting settings as to when and where it's going to be. So you can use the link a million times. Now, if you're doing this for class or office hours or whatever, then what you can do is, again, same process, recurring meeting, no fixed time, but then you'll put that link, when we save our meeting, we'll get the link again. We'll put that link somewhere in our Canvas course. Now, if you're using the course template, there's a course template that's created for you. It's available on the PDC website at conferzoom.edu/pdc/canvas. So you can go to the PDC Canvas support page for instructors and you access template. And there's a week 1 lesson page and a week 2 lesson page. So that's where you could put the link to join your Zoom meeting. And that way you can write there on that lesson page, you'll say, hey students, this week your lecture is going to be delivered through Zoom. Here's the Zoom link. Join it on Monday at 2 p.m. or whenever your class is, right? So it's really important to make sure that you offer that class when that class is supposed to be offered and paused, because people will make, they'll make their schedules around what the classes are that they take. So make sure to keep to that schedule, write down what that schedule is in the course alongside where you give that link, so that way you get less questions from students asking, hey, where do I log into the lecture? So we've created a meeting. We haven't saved it yet, but we've created our topic right here. So it might be weekly lecture, whatever it is. We've made it a recurring meeting with no fixed time, which gives us flexibility. We're going to allow the meeting ID to be generated automatically. I don't use my personal meeting ID at all because it's just on too many of my training videos and I don't want people to pop into my meeting. So I like to make it generated automatically because it's just one less thing. Now the security right here, I like to in a waiting room. And that's because it prevents people from popping into your meeting. So because I don't use that many links for the actual meetings that I use. So if you have one link where you're going to meet with students and talk about, like if you're doing office hours, or you're in a department meeting where you're going to talk about confidential things, and you use the same link for Zoom a lot, then you'll definitely want to enable a waiting room. It prevents people from popping into your meetings and hearing stuff they don't want to hear, right? If you're talking about grades, that could be a FERPA violation. So it's really important to enable a waiting room. It does mean that you will have to click a button to allow people to join. But again, great security feature. It keeps people who should not be in your meeting from joining it without your permission. So we'll talk more about how to kick people out when we're actually talking about the meeting features and how to run your meeting. So I like to have a waiting room. Probably you should too. Then with video, you could leave it set to on or off. It's not as big of a deal as it used to be. Anyone can click a button to show their video. I've heard from a lot of people who say that they like to leave it set to off, but ConferZoom will warn you. It will say, hey, do you want to share your video? So even if you have these both set to on, it will still warn the students and say, hey, do you want to show your video? So there is like that second level of confirmation. But if you're really paranoid and you just don't want it to show your face initially at all or prompt you, then you can leave it set to off. Either way is fine. I'm going to leave it set to on just because that's easier. And that's what works for me. So things to think about. But again, even if you set it to off, they can still turn it on later. So you have flexibility whether or not you leave it on or off. Audio, I always leave it set to both because that allows people to join with their computer audio, or if they don't have a microphone, it allows them to join and call in by telephone. So it just gives them a lot of flexibility that way. Totally up to you. I do like to allow people in my meeting options to join before I do. It will send you an email and it will tell you, hey, you have people waiting for you in your meeting, and it'll give you a link to your meeting, which is really handy. But if you find that you're getting too many emails because people are clicking your link all the time and it's just driving you crazy, then you can deselect that if you would like. You can also choose to mute the participants upon entry. This can be nice if you are finding that your lectures are a little bit unruly or the meetings are a little bit unruly, but I really like to give people that flexibility to have those conversations at the beginning, because it kind of mimics more the traditional either meeting or classroom environment where people can experience that small talk. And get to know each other a little bit. But again, if you're finding this to be a problem, you can always mute participants upon entry in the meeting settings here, or when you're actually leading the meeting. So again, we'll learn more about that feature when we're actually in the meeting kind of space. Don't worry about the breakout rooms, pre-assigning those. That's really, if you're going to use this meeting more than once, you really won't want to pre-assign those. But there is a feature here called breakout rooms where you can have small groups get together, which is really, really cool. So we'll talk more about that when we get there. You can also record the meeting automatically in the cloud. That's nice if you want to record all of your lectures and post them later for students to watch over again, or students who missed the actual class session because of whatever reason. You might want to record it automatically just because it's one less thing for you to remember to do. So you can hit the record button when you're in the meeting, but recording it automatically can be really helpful. I do not like to do this because I find that people talk less. Maybe they don't feel as comfortable because when they enter the meeting, it will tell them that this meeting is being recorded, and that can be a little bit uncomfortable for people. So I don't like to do it automatically, but I have done it before, and it has been really helpful in preventing me from forgetting to hit record. Now you can do the meeting type here. Student instruction or non-instructional. So department meetings would be non-instructional, of course. Student instruction would be live lecture, maybe office hours, that kind of thing. You can put in an alternative host here. My use case for this is if I'm leading a training and I'm worried about a power outage, I might put my director in as the alternative host just because he can pop in and say, hey, everybody, sorry, there's been a power outage and I'm going to continue the training session, right? That kind of use case scenario. If you don't, so if you're doing like a department meeting, having alternative hosts is a great feature that I encourage you to use. But if it's a lecture and you're the one, right, and nobody else is going to be able to come in and just take over for you very easily, then you might not put an alternative host. But again, it depends on how many times you're going to use this meeting space. If it's a recurring meeting and you always want to use it, then you might not have an alternative host that would be there all the time. You can set another host from the meeting itself. So again, most of these are optional and not a make it or break it if you don't pick it when you're setting up the meeting. I'm not going to worry about the language interpretation right now. I'm just going to hit save. And now you'll see here is my Zoom meeting link. It's right here. I like to copy and paste this link and put it, like I said, into either, like a meeting invitation with Google Calendar. That works really well. You can email this out to someone with your Google email if you would like, or you can copy and paste this and put this into your Canvas course on a lesson or a lecture page, however you want to do this. You could also put it into a course announcement. So anywhere where you can edit text in Canvas, you can put this invitation, this meeting invite link. And again, you can use this is a recurring meeting with no fixed time, so you can use the same link over and over and over. You can also click copy invitation, and I have all this great information right here that you can distribute to students. I don't encourage you to do this only because it is a lot of information. So it can be really confusing. Students might think this is the link that they need to click. This actually just shows them a list of international numbers. So this is actually the link. This is the link that you need to communicate. So this is what I like to do. If students, again, are having audio issues and they need to call in, they can still click on this link and say join by telephone, and it will give them all of those phone numbers. So really, this is the thing that you need to use. So that's it. That's it for this section right here. So let's actually go into what a meeting looks like. So we're going to talk about how to lead a Zoom meeting and how to manage those meetings using some of the built-in tools in Zoom. Now, some of these tools are subject to change. For example, one of the new buttons that I'm going to talk pretty extensively about is the new security button. So we'll see what that looks like in a second. So don't be surprised if, and that one was just added a few months ago. So don't be surprised if some of the features that you see are a little bit different than they look in this video, because I'm going to try to use this video as long as I can, because it just takes a lot of resources to make new instructional videos. Um, so just, be patient. If there's something that looks a little bit different, you can reach out for support, or, just take your time, hover your mouse over it. That usually will tell you what the new button does. So let's take a look at what it's going to look like. So I've taken some screenshots here because Zoom does not Zoom has a hard time when you are trying to share, when you're trying to show somebody what it looks like. So I just took some screenshots. So my face is not moving just because I took a screenshot here. So when you launch a Zoom meeting, when you click on that link, right? So that link that we talked about previously, when you click the join link, it should recognize that you are the meeting host. You may have to sign in using your Zoom credentials. So it will prompt you to do that, and then you will be in the meeting, and it's going to look something like this. Now, along the bottom of your screen, you're going to have a black bar that has options that look something like this. So we're just going to kind of start at the left and go towards the right as we talk about all these different features. But again, sometimes these buttons look a little bit different as they update this product. So the first one is the mute button, or it may say unmute. So you can click this button to mute yourself, so that way nobody can hear you, nobody can hear your screaming toddler. That's my life. Okay. So use that mute button as much as you want. Just make sure that you remember to click that button again to unmute yourself if students are not, or other people in the meeting are not able to hear you. There's also this little upward arrow that shows up right next to that button, and that allows you to get into a bunch of different options that look like this, right? So if you have multiple microphones connected, now that sounds weird, but that would actually totally happen if you're using a headset, for instance. So let's say you've got your laptop, there is a built-in microphone and a built-in webcam there, but if you have a headset plugged in like I do right now, you can actually choose a different microphone. You'll see multiple on the list right here under this upward arrow. Same with speakers, right? So I'm connected to a TV. That's my monitor. So I have two monitors set up. So I have the speakers which are coming through my headset. So that's like my headphones. Or it will let me play it through my TV speaker. So however you want to hear that, you can indicate that here. So play around with these options. If the sound isn't working quite the way you expect, play around with these options by hitting the upward arrow. You can also do things like switch to phone audio. So if your connection is slow, you can call in, and when you choose switch to phone audio, it will give you the numbers to call in, which is really nice because again, if you're leading a lecture and students are like, "Hey, you sound goofy," try to call in with your phone. It could work a little bit better. It will display that phone number that you're calling in with, unless you indicate your participant ID. So when you click the switch to phone audio, it will say, here's the number to call, here's the meeting ID to put in, and here's your participant passcode. If you do that all the way through and you enter in that participant passcode, it will not show your phone number. It will go based on your logged in name, which is really nice. So things to think about. You'll see if you choose that switch to phone audio, it will be the same as your name and you won't show up twice, which is cool in the meeting. So we won't mess around with these settings too much. The next option is the video. So it's either start or stop. If your video is displaying, it will say stop. If your video is not displaying, it will say start. So this will start whatever webcam you have plugged in. I have a built-in webcam with my computer. So that's my integrated webcam. But I tend to use my external webcam, which I have. It's just a little bit higher quality, so that so I can choose whichever one I want to show my face through, which is cool. You can also do fun things like choosing a virtual background. And this isn't just a fun option, actually. This is this is something that you might consider using, just depending on your situation. So this is particularly good if you, let's say you have an office and it's like mine and it's a mess, right? We all we all have experienced this. So you can actually choose a virtual background instead, which allows you to put up like a picture. Um, as the background, and it like detects your face, and it so you don't need a green screen or anything fancy. It just puts your face, detects your face and puts your face over whatever your picture is, so you can make it look like you have a very, very neat and clean office. This is also good if you've got, if you've got stuff in the background that you don't want people to be looking at, right? Like personal family photos. There could be any kind of reason that you might not want to share this. Our students, sometimes they're in a space that they don't feel good about or whatever. So this is a great equity opportunity, because now nobody needs to see what a student's personal living situation is. So this is just it's a nice thing, this virtual background. It's not just for fun and showing that you have palm trees in your background. That's always fun, but it's not just for that. So muting yourself, unmuting yourself, stopping or starting your video, pretty core functions that you'll want to be able to do. Now the next item on the list here is actually the new security icon. Now that's the thing that I was talking about a little bit earlier. It's a brand new feature, or relatively new at this point, in fall 2020, where security was something that came into play because there were people who were joining Zoom meetings and they were being disruptive or whatever, right? So they were just putting in random links and popping into Zoom meetings. So there are people that really enjoy doing this. And now with the new security button, it just makes it a lot easier for us to manage our meetings. So when you click on the security button, you can do things like lock the meeting. That prevents anyone from popping into the meeting. So like once you've taken roll, you can lock the meeting, keep anyone else out. Once everybody for your department meeting arrives, keep anyone else out who should not be there, right? So you can do that. I don't use that so much as I use the waiting room feature. And that was one of those options that we talked about when we were actually setting up the meeting. So you can automatically enable the waiting rooms for any meeting. So that way it's like you don't have to go into the security button and do it here. But if you've disabled it, or if you want to disable it, you can also do that here. It's either going to say lock the meeting or unlock the meeting, or it's going to say enable waiting room or disable waiting room. Just depends on what you have going. So when the waiting room is enabled, you will be able to see, in one of the things that we're going to look at next under the participants panel, you'll be able to see when someone shows up, and you'll be able to send them a message using the chat feature. So let's say you have you're doing office hours and you're working with one student one-on-one, and then another student pops into the waiting room. You can then message the student who's sitting in the waiting room, and you can say, hey, there's one person or two people or whatever in front of you, but hang tight and I will let you in the next few minutes. So having the waiting room is really handy. Also, if you have someone join and you don't know who they are, you could say, I'm sorry, I'm not sure who this is, but I have an appointment with so-and-so, could you confirm, your name or your student email address or whatever it is. So that gives you a nice option to communicate with the people in the waiting room so that they know why they're in the waiting room, how long they can expect to wait, that kind of thing, while still keeping them out of your meeting. So really, really nice feature is using the enabling the waiting room. So the next couple of features that you can do here with the security button is you can allow your meeting participants to do certain things. So you can allow them to participate in the chat, or you can click it to uncheck it and then they can't use the chat feature. You can allow them or not to rename themselves. allow them or not to unmute themselves. So you could mute everybody and not let them say anything. This is great for like a webinar. And you can also do things here like prevent them from annotating your screen when you share your screen. We'll talk more about annotations, but there is a way that you can share your screen, which we'll get to, and students can, by default, they will be able to write on that screen, which is a great, it's kind of like a blackboard or a whiteboard, sorry, feature, which is really cool, but you might not want to let them draw on it for obvious reasons, right? So we'll talk more about that in a second when we get to the sharing screen item. And then the last two things you can do here with the security button is you can remove the participant from your meeting. They will not be able to re-enter. But you know, if you remove them and then lock the meeting, they couldn't enter either. You could also enable the waiting room and remove the participant and then just don't let them in again. So you have lots of different options here under security. You can also report a person who's being disruptive or whatever. This reports them to Zoom, not Hartnell. So it's not like we get a record of students who've been reported. This is more for, this goes to Zoom and it's somebody who's being abusive and then they'll disable their account. So great features under security. Really, really important to know to click that button and you have all of these things centralized in one space. So the next item that we're going to look at here is the Manage Participants button. And there's also another button here that's invite. So you can actually use this if you wanted to. You can click on invite and then you could copy the meeting URL or copy that whole invitation with, you know, the phone numbers and stuff and do that kind of thing here under invite. Managing participants. This is most of this functionality has moved to the remove button, but you can also use the manage participants to mute everybody, unmute everyone. If you click on the more option, you can do things like, you know, don't allow them to unmute themselves, don't allow them to rename themselves. The thing I use this for, so like when you click on participants, you'll open it up here and you'll have all of the participants listed here. I did this test with my husband, Steve. So that's why you see his name and then you see my name here. But theoretically, when you click on participants, you'll see everyone who's in the meeting right here. And you have at the bottom the mute all, the unmute all, and then here under more, it might also look like three dots. You have these options. The one that I use the most is the play chime for enter exit. I think it says something a little bit different, but it says like play a sound when someone joins the meeting or leaves. I love this because if I have this set to have a waiting room, then I need to know when somebody joins because I need to let them in. So I like to play the chime for entering and exiting just so that it tells me that I need to look at the participants. And this is also where you'll see the list of people here that are in your meeting, but above it, if there's anybody who's waiting in your waiting room, you can click a button that says let this person enter, or you can click a button that says admit everyone. So again, this lets you bring everyone into the meeting at once or let people in one by one, you know, all the people that you know, that kind of thing. And then you could message them that sort of stuff. So I use manage participants and then I click more so that way I get that chime. There is no way currently to put this to put this into your meeting. I wish that there was because this is such a great option that I use all the time. So you have individual members here. And remember, with that security button, you can click it and you can remove a participant that way. But you can also hover your mouse over the person and you can click mute to mute them. Or you can click more and you can do things like stop their video. You could make them the host or the co-host so that way they can share their screen, you know, do all that kind of stuff. Or even assign them to type the closed captions. So if you have somebody in your class who's a DSPS student who needs that level of support and you have a captioner assigned, who you'll get emails about this if you have someone in your class that has that particular need. But this is how you would assign somebody to type those closed captions. You can also rename them. So like, see, you can tell right here, my husband put his name. He didn't put his last name, that kind of thing. So maybe if somebody puts some goofy name here, you can rename them manually. And, you know, once you take attendance and you see like who who it is. You can rename them. And again, you can remove them from here if you would like. So manage participants is nice, but really most of this stuff has been moved to the security button, but they're here as well. So the next option is the the polls feature. This is very cool. It's exactly the way that it sounds, where you can launch a poll for people and get kind of that instant feedback if you would like, where people take a little quiz. I would not overthink this too much. Sometimes it's nice to just ask a question and tell students or people in your meeting to unmute themselves. But it's nice because this can be anonymous, which is cool. So you can get a good read of the room this way. Now the next option is really, really critical. That is the share screen button. You will probably use this quite a lot or be asked to use this because this is just so handy. This is how you will share what's on your screen. So I get this question a lot, particularly from instructors who will say, hey, how do I, how do I give students my lecture PowerPoint? How do I upload that? Well, you don't actually need to upload it here. What you'll do is you will be running your meeting and you will open up the PowerPoint presentation on your screen, and then you'll share your screen so that way all your students are going to be able to immediately see your PowerPoint presentation. Everyone in the meeting will see your presentation, that kind of thing. So you can share your screen and do a couple of different things. So when you click on the share button, it will detect if you have multiple screens. It'll say, do you want to share screen 1, screen 2? You'll have all these different options of things to share. If you have a lot of windows open, so let's say you've got, your Google Gmail open, and then you have your PowerPoint open. So you can also just share the individual windows. And that way you're not sharing everything on your screen that happens. You're just sharing the one PowerPoint window. So you're not going to accidentally, put your email on blast, that kind of thing. So you'll have a lot of different options when you click on share screen. And so just choose from those and see which one works the best. By default, it will just, it'll say, again, like screen 1, screen 2. If you only have one screen, then it will just say screen. And that's what I like to use, because I will go back and forth between many windows quite often. I'll show them PowerPoint, and then I'll show a login screen, that kind of stuff. So share your screen and then click share, and it will immediately display that to everybody else. You'll also have an option. So you'll see this kind of here, right? So you click the share button, you have different options. We'll talk about the whiteboard. But when you choose your option, the whiteboard is just like a big white screen that you can then like draw on using the annotation tools. So if you choose which one you want to share, and then you'll confirm the share by clicking the blue button. But under that, you'll also see a little option that you'll have to check mark that says share, and it may say share and optimize computer sound. All these options are always changing. So this, you would want to share your computer sound if you want to share a YouTube video, for instance. Students will not be able to hear the video unless you click share, choose the thing to share, check mark share computer sound, and then hit share. So things to think about. It's not a big deal. If you're finding that this isn't working and you forgot to check the button, you can always stop sharing and start sharing again. It's a minor hiccup, and that will usually get it to work the way you expect. So if you're having trouble sharing your screen, you can always stop sharing and start sharing again. Just be very careful when you select the options, and you'll probably get it right the second time. So these hiccups happen all the time. Don't overthink it. Don't feel bad. The majority of us are new to this technology. So, just take heart, do your best. And if it doesn't work the first time, try it again. So lots of different sharing options. So just like the upward arrow here next to mute and next to the video, you also have an upward arrow next to share. And that's where you can do things like allow multiple students to share their screen. And this will allow you to hit a downward arrow, and you can choose whose screen to view, which is nice. So students will be able to all see each other's screens that way. which is kind of cool for group presentations. Um, and you can also do things like allow students to share their screens or disallow them. Again, some of that's moved to the security button, but you'll have that option again here. So check out those screen sharing options if there's something that you expect to see but do not. So the next item we're going to talk about is the chat feature. So when you open up the chat window, it will open up a very small side window where there's a little chat messaging screen, and you can see things that different people are messaging out. So you can do things like share files. So if you wanted to share your PowerPoint right there, you could. Like if you wanted to send people the file for them to follow along with, you could do that here by clicking on chat, clicking on file, and then you'll see when you click the three dots, you'll see other options here. So you could choose how you want people to be able to communicate with each other. You know, are you having a problem with people sending private messages to each other? I don't know how you would know, but if you don't want to find out, then you can click the three dots, and you could only allow people to chat with, everyone publicly, right? So that way you don't have secret messages going back and forth that nobody can see. Or you could allow them to chat with you as the host only, or you could just disable the chat. I like to allow this just because I like to allow it, and I'm not overly worried about what they're saying privately. So, because they'll just move it to Google Hangouts or something if I were to disable it anyway. So, to me, it's not a huge deal, but use your best judgment. And this is a cool feature where you can do things like enter in links and stuff like that you want people to visit, and then they can see it in the chat and click it, and it's really nice. You don't have to spell everything out. So again, distributing files is great, and allowing people to chat with one another and sending out links. This is really a great feature of the chat. Now the next item we have is record, and that's exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to record your meeting, and then you can access these recordings two different ways, depending on how you are in your meeting. So if you did this the way that we talked about at the beginning, where you went to ConferZoom.org and you clicked on meetings, you clicked on, create a meeting, or schedule meeting, whatever it says. So if you created your meeting that way, and then you gave the link to your students, then when you hit the record button, the recordings are going to be stored at ConferZoom.org. So you can download those recordings. You can put them on YouTube. You can put them in Canvas Studio. You can do whatever you're comfortable with. And you can also, you'll get an email when your recording link is ready, and it will give you the direct link to the recording itself. Now those recordings, so that's called a cloud recording, and those cloud recordings are only live. Those links are only live for 1 year. It will not give you a warning or anything like that. So basically you can use it for that whole semester, maybe the one after that, but really then that video is gone. So I don't like to do that because I like to have, I like to keep my lectures. I like to keep, if I have a training, I like to keep that video for longer than a year because I like to reuse it as much as possible. So just different things to think about. If you're only going to use it that semester for people to watch it, then that's fine. If you want to use it over and over again, then I would download the video and put it somewhere like YouTube or Canvas Studio. So you'll access those, like I said, at ConferZoom.org. But if you are using the ConferZoom LTI, which again we didn't really talk about too much, if you're launching your meetings through Canvas through the LTI by clicking on ConferZoom in the left navigation menu of your courses, then that's where you will find those recordings. There's a recordings tab that you can click to find those recordings. Otherwise, you'll go to ConferZoom.org and you will download the video, put it on YouTube, or put it in Canvas Studio and distribute that to your students that way. If you're using a virtual desktop to work off of, and if you don't know what that is, then you're not using it. But if you're using a virtual desktop to do your work on, um, you can use it to download the video file, but then make sure that you immediately upload it to YouTube or Google Drive or whatever, because each of those videos takes up a huge amount of space. So if you download it and then upload it to YouTube, then make sure you delete it off of your virtual desktop. And this is also the reason that you can put it into Canvas Studio, and there are separate trainings on that. But you can put it into Canvas Studio and it won't eat into your class space, your storage space. But you really don't want to upload it directly into your Canvas course itself, like into the files. And you don't do that because your course is just not going to be able to handle that much video time. So you really want to stay away from doing that. It also makes it so that it's really difficult when you copy your course over next term. It takes a long time if you put a video into the files section. So try to put it somewhere like YouTube, Google Drive, wherever. YouTube is great because then you get the link and you can put the link into your Canvas course. YouTube also automatically captions it for you. And even when you put it into YouTube, you could also then put the link into Canvas Studio and it will give you those great interactive video features. So again, go to a Canvas Studio training if you want to learn more about that service. But YouTube is really what I use primarily, in conjunction even with Canvas Studio, and YouTube seems to work the best for my needs, and it seems to work pretty well for other people's needs on campus too, especially if you're using it, for a lecture type function. So the next item on the list is the closed captioning feature. So like we were talking about before, you can assign someone to type closed captions. So that's their captioning as you are talking. So you can do that under Manage Participants, or you can do that by clicking on the closed caption button, which is probably the thing that is easiest to do because it says closed captioning and it's just easy to remember. Closed captioning is exactly what it sounds like. It assigns a person who is in that meeting at that time to type live captions. So, I mean, theoretically, you could type them yourself to support your students, but there's like no way that you'll probably be able to do that because you won't be able to concentrate on what you're saying. Um, but you should have someone from DSPS will reach out to you if you have a student who has those specific needs, and then they'll give you the next steps for the person who's a closed captioner. So you will be able to then add them to the course, and you'll be able to assign them to type those captions. If you are using this to record meetings, when you record it and you access it at ConferZoom.org, it actually will do closed captions automatically, just like YouTube will put closed captions automatically on your recorded videos that you upload to YouTube. The problem is live captions aren't always 100% accurate. They also don't contain those grammatical um, notations. And so if you don't have the right grammar in there, the right commas, the right periods, it could really change the meaning of what you're saying. You'll also run into this if you are teaching, a course that has very specific vocabulary. Oftentimes it won't understand what you're saying. You get this a lot with like health classes, where you use very specific anatomical terms, and it just doesn't understand what you're saying. So uh, again, another thing to think about: if you have a DSPS student or class, you want to make sure that you have um, that you have the information about the live captioners, and this is how you do that. So the next item is the breakout rooms feature. We only have a couple more minutes, so I won't go super into depth on this, except to tell you that you can click create breakout rooms. You can choose, so like this is the first screen, you'll see something like this, and you can choose to assign them into however many rooms automatically or manually. I highly recommend doing it automatically, and then if you have a couple of problem students that cannot be in the same room together, you can always switch that after the fact. So create the rooms automatically. It will tell you how many people are going to be in the room. So if you have 10 students and you choose 2 rooms, it's going to be 5 participants per room, and it will tell you right here along the bottom how many people per room. So you don't have to do the math in your head, right? So really, really handy. So you can just like click it up one and see if that number gets a little closer to what you were thinking of. Then you click create rooms and you'll have all of these options that show up. So it'll say, okay, do you want to move everybody into the breakout rooms automatically? Like, of course, right? You don't want to make somebody click if they don't have to. I like to allow participants to return to the main session at any time. I I've not had a problem with this, but if you're finding that they are not staying the full amount of time in their breakout sessions, then you might want to disallow this. And then here, the breakout rooms can close automatically after however many minutes, which is great. So give them 10 minutes to work in small groups. And you can just put in that number of minutes here. You can make it notify you, the host, when the time is up, which is handy too. And then you can also, I always make sure to enable the countdown timer. And if you have a big long discussion, maybe give it, 60 seconds. Give them a full minute to wrap up what they were saying before they get put back into the main meeting space. When you're ready, when you've set all these options, so when you've configured the number of rooms and when you've set all the options, then you click on open all rooms and it will put everybody in them for you as long as you said move them automatically. So really, really nice. Then there's also a great, if you want to learn more about breakout rooms and how to use it, there's a great guide here at hartnell.edu/pdc/canvas/online-training.html. That's also the same link where you'll learn more about, the ConferZoom LTI, stuff like that. So handy information here. Breakout rooms are a great feature. As of this video, people who are using Chromebooks do not get automatically put into breakout rooms. So if you have a class that's like dual enrollment, for example, and you know that all the students only have Chromebooks, you really can't use the breakout rooms feature. Anyway, as of right now, this may warrant some testing just to, as this stuff develops. I'm sure that Zoom is working on a way to make the breakout rooms work for those devices because they're increasingly popular, especially among high school districts. So just if you have a room full of students that only have Chromebooks, don't use breakout rooms because it won't work as expected as of right now. But if you just have a few students who are on a Chromebook, it doesn't mean they can't participate. It just means that they will be stuck in the main session, which is okay if you've only got 5 people with Chromebooks, because then they become their own little Chromebook breakout room effectively because everybody else is in the other breakout room. So that might work out just fine. Either way is okay. So let's go down here to ending the meeting. So you'll have this option that says end meeting. If you are a participant, it will say leave meeting. So you can end the meeting and you can end it for everyone because the lecture's over, or you can end it and just select leave meeting and say, hey, you guys can hang out and talk in the classroom. It's just like, think about it this way. It's like walking out of a classroom, and you can determine if you want to walk out of that classroom and leave your students there, or if you want to kick everybody out of the classroom, right? So either way is totally fine. But consider this: if you're in a dual enrollment class and you're not allowed to leave the students unsupervised, you'll need to end the meeting for everyone. But this gives you flexibility, especially if you think about it in the context of like a department meeting. You may just want to leave the meeting because you have to leave a few minutes early, but everyone else can keep talking. So again, if you've recorded the meeting, it will be available at conferzoom.org. Once it finishes uploading, you'll get an email notification with your little stream link when it's ready. So that's pretty much everything that you need to know about using ConferZoom. We're just about at the end of our hour here. So I hope that you learned a lot. I think the main items that you will need to know how to do when you're in your Zoom meeting is you'll need to know how to mute yourself, how to stop your video or start it. You'll need to know that security button that is normally right here. You'll need to know how to kick people out, restrict their access, just for security reasons. And then you'll really need to be able to share your screen, maybe use the chat, maybe record, stuff like that. So these, I would say, there are about 5 items that you really, really need to know. Mute, video, security, managing the participants, and sharing your screen, maybe record. So I hope this has been a helpful session. And if you want to learn any more about this, you can go to the website that was shared earlier, which is hartnell.edu/pdc/canvas/online-training.html. There's also another helpful link with additional support resources that are pretty dedicated to Zoom itself. And that link is right here on your screen. It's hartnell.edu/pdc/guides/ConferZoom. So up-to-date information is there. You can also do things like see if ConferZoom is down for everyone, like if their servers are having issues. So that information is posted. A link to that, server status is there. All sorts of really helpful information and up-to-date guides and videos. So be sure to check that out if you want a little bit more support. So thank you all so much for watching and have a great day.